I'm Mark White, Associate at the Worshipful Company of Farriers from Brentwood, Essex.
You know, the very essence of the mental game is this. The only reason an event matters is because we make it matter.
Welcome to the Mullins Farrier Podcast.
Every horse, whatever it was doing, had a season. Once their competition season finished, they took the shoes off, they chucked it out in the field with some other horses, and it had a 2, maybe 3 months period where it went and remembered what being a horse was all about.
Even in a cheaper area, your prices should be set by your skill level, by your experience. And some people might not feel that they're worth, as much as others. But if you're only charging $160 to shoe a horse, then the only way you're making money is on your trims.
The WCB was a way to make sure that you kept the trade alive. I think I'm a custodian of the trade, so it's like we have to keep it going.
It was hard, but you adapt and overcome, and that probably gets to me where I am now. It's problem solving, horseshoeing's problem solving, and back in the day it was problem solving how to be as strong as the older apprentices. So it's all about adapting and overcoming, which was good.
I know we learn every day, but you do have to put yourself outside the box and just continue to learn, which is why I was just trying to do my fellowship, because I still have apprentices, and if I stay at my AW, I'm stagnant.
Welcome, everyone. As a first on this podcast, I would like to start this episode out with a toast. We have a bit of a royal wedding coming up in the farrier world on the 27th of July. One of the movers and shakers in our industry from my country is about to tie the knot with another rock star from across the pond. Catherine Hebert and Stephen Bean, we wish you all the love and happiness in your new life together. May your anvils always ring in harmony. Cheers. This marks our last episode before we move to the subscription model. There will be a link in the show notes to sign up, and the process is fairly simple and straightforward. I appreciate everyone who has reached out to find out how to sign up earlier, and now we're up and running, so if I didn't get back to you personally, the link is available here. As well, if you have any trouble getting set up, please DM me on Messenger, and I will do my best to help you get sorted. I met today's guest at Stoneleigh at the same time that I met one of our previous guests, James Todd. As you will hear, James and Mark are great friends, and I was happy we managed to get both of them in for an interview. It was not planned, but I found it interesting that this guest and our last one, Alan, both had hard-learned lessons to tell about listening to your body when it tells you to settle down a bit. Both Alan and Mark said that after years of not listening, their bodies made the message clear. But fortunately, with some medical intervention, patience, and next-level perseverance, they both have been able to come back to the career they love. I'm sure by now you've noticed a trend in all of the Stoneleigh episodes where everybody seems to mention this Stephen Hill character. He pops up in Mark's story as well, and if you haven't already heard his interview, it was released just a couple episodes ago. Anyway, it was great getting to know Mark, and he shares some fantastic stories spanning his long career as a mentor to many. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. An Essex boy.
Yeah, through and through.
So born and raised then?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I heard from Ellie Mae that you've had a lot of apprentices over the years.
22 in total.
Wow.
1993, I took my first apprentice on, and I finished in 2013.
Wow, okay. And have you retired, or are you just not taking on apprentices?
Semi-retired. Bad back, ill health. Had some major surgery done in 2018. Back went again in 2021. Surgeon told me he wasn't prepared to do any more to it for the time being, and that I needed to rethink my career.
Oh, wow.
That sort of put the brakes on immediately, and had a good long think about it and thought, right, okay, well, I'm right into welding and fabricating, so I'll take a back step from the shoeing. Told all my clients that for the foreseeable future I was done, and went about doing my welding and fabricating, which I'd already been doing for the last 15 years, but just made it grow because now my son is a coded welder, does a lot of specialised welding, and yeah, it just seemed like a natural progression because I was interested in it, and it's opened a lot of doors that I never thought would be opened. I was just talking to somebody outside and said, you know, when your shoeing career comes to an end, you think that's it, you're done, you're on a scrap heap of life. But in actual fact, as farriers, you're very talented and you have an eye for things that a lot of people don't appreciate. All they see is you bent down, slogging your guts out all day long.
Yep.
And they don't realise that you have a real eye for level and perfection and things like that.
Yeah, and an artistic brain.
Yeah. I mean, I would never say that I was inclined towards artistic blacksmithing. That's never really been my thing. More industrial sort of stuff. So the steelworks and stuff that I've got into are all either industrial based. So we used to do a lot of work on the boats and the conveyors that bring aggregate in. So we used to do all the welding repairs on the big conveyors and the cranes and the bits and pieces on the ships. And then gradually that's moved into sort of constructional steelwork, RSJs and stuff, when they're building new houses and all that sort of stuff. Plus, I've got into doing a bit of coach building.
Oh, really?
Building lorries for people. I built a horse box this year. Never done it before. An old horse client of mine said to me, would I fancy doing it for him? Okay, we'll have a go. So we've done that, and that's now led to me having several more lorries to do, but not horse boxes, just different types of goods carrying lorries. So, yeah, it's sort of keeping me busy. But in the meantime, my back's got so much better
Okay.
that I've come back to doing a bit of shoeing.
Oh, good.
So I kept a few trims on all the way throughout. And when I say a few, I mean probably 10 or 12. And then this year, I decided that actually I needed to get back under a couple just because I missed it so much.
Yeah.
And I felt that I could, provided I did it on my terms. No bad horses, no old cripples that are going to push me into the ground. And that's what I've done. And when I was very busy, I used to work in several vet practices. And so we've sort of rekindled friendships there. And I'm doing a little bit for a few vets locally.
Cool.
Which is nice.
Yeah. You thought it was almost over, and yet you're having like a second.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I mean, my body, it does hurt a lot.
Right.
But when you stop shoeing, most farriers find that if they take a break, they hurt a lot for a few days and then they ease off. And then when they come back into work after a holiday, it hits them like a train.
Right, yeah.
That's pretty much where I was at. So although my back had got stronger and I was able to stand up straight and walk better, I now can't bend down to the floor and get anything off the floor. So I look like a baby giraffe trying to, if I drop any tools on the floor,
Right.
really
yeah.
I need a magnet on a stick.
Right.
I cope with it. And because I'm not under pressure when I'm out doing any shoeing now,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't got loads of crazy clients chasing. I can take my time and then that just takes the pressure off. So you're not rushing, you're not throwing your tools around. And
Right. What made you start doing the industrial blacksmithing as a side?
Through a friend of mine, I built our workshop at home I started on it in 2004. And they had a bit of an incident where these ships come in. It had hit one of the docking bays and busted all of the gantry up. And I was asked if I could go down and have a look with him to see if we could do an on-site repair. And that's where that began.
Oh.
Yeah. And that has really moved from us doing that work down at 600 foot out into the River Thames on the end of a tiny walkway. You got to get all your equipment down there. I mean, that in itself, you're walking down like a crab carrying welding equipment. It's not good for your back.
No.
We've ended up doing the work in the main site there where it comes on shore, it gets dumped and then it goes through a big mill to be granulated into cement.
Okay.
So we do get involved with doing a re-hard facing of the grinding mill wheels.
Okay.
More my son's thing. I went out and done it a few times. God, it's hot in there. If you think it's hot shoeing horses in the summer, these machines run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Only time they stop is to have a refurb on the mill table or the mill wheels. last summer, in the middle of the night, I'd done a 7-hour stint lying on my belly, hand welding the ruts in the table. It was 42 degrees in there at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Gosh.
And you're fully respirated up. So there's lots of things that, I wasn't really comfortable with that at my age, laying on the floor. You can do the job, but I wouldn't want to do it all the time. So I've got a happy medium now.
Right.
Do a bit of shoeing, do a bit of fabricating. I don't get really involved in doing general blacksmithing, gates and that stuff. Just doesn't interest me. But big stuff, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, how did you become a horseshoer in the first place?
So my sister was right into ponies and got into show jumping, and we used to have a farrier come to us who still runs a big farrier supply store right on our doorstep. But he had a saddlery first and foremost that he ran with his family, and he used to sell bits and pieces of tack out the back of his van. And I was fascinated by what he was doing at the age of about 14. Tried to get an apprenticeship when I was 16, couldn't get in with anyone. So I abandoned that, carried on at school to higher education. And then out of the blue, my sister rang up one day and said that the farrier that was shoeing her jumping horses was looking for an apprentice. And I went for an interview that afternoon and started work the next day.
Really?
Yeah, and it's gone full circle, really, because the guy that trained me is the first apprentice that is trained by the guy who I'm here with today, Jim Todd.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we've got a close connection.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
How far into your career were you when you started taking on apprentices yourself?
So I would have been 30 years old. I'd been running my business for about coming up to 8 years.
And how much did that change your world?
An immense learning curve.
Yeah.
Massive learning curve, especially with the first couple of apprentices I had that were a little bit awkward. Nice guys, but when somebody decides to take up shoeing horses, it's not an easy job. There's no way to dress it up to make it easy.
No.
And if you can't stand the heat, then the old saying is, don't go in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very much of that ilk because that's the way I was trained.
Right.
And the way the guy that trained me was trained. So you just sort of went with the flow, but it wasn't necessarily the right thing to do. So I had a very sharp learning curve in training apprentices and what you could do correctly and how to get things across. So I ended up having multiple apprentices because I found that I had a knack of taking on these lads that were part way through the system, either fell out with their bosses, had learning difficulties. I was able to recognise that. And so as it was then, the farrier training agency used to ask me if I'd be willing to take them on to finish their time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So out of the 22, I think I had 7 that were part way through their apprenticeship when they came to me. So one of them was halfway through his second year when he came. He stayed till the end. Another one was he'd done his final exam and failed it. And nobody along the way had noticed that this guy had major learning difficulties.
Really?
And they asked me if I would co-train him with his original training farrier. And I ended up having him 4 days a week, and he worked for his original boss 1 day a week. It was very quickly that I realised he really couldn't read and write very well.
Okay.
We had him sent up to Warwickshire College and assessed. He got a reader and a writer in his exam, and he passed.
Amazing.
And that's quite common. I had another guy as well who was a really, really good farrier. Really absolute attention to detail, second to none.
Right.
Couldn't read a page of a book without struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And once that was identified, he flew through the exam.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there was quite a few, but there was a lot of learning curves along the way. Lots of arguments. And I do say to people that if you're going to train apprentices, it's a major undertaking because a lot of the guys, you become like a surrogate parent to them.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you are in their life more than their own family.
Yep.
Especially when you're working long hours, driving from job to job. And I did work long hours. I won't deny I probably burnt the candle at both ends.
You just had that drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't really get into doing too many competitions. When I was an apprentice, we used to do one competition a year. When I qualified, I got busy very quick and just didn't have time. Did a few competitions the first year and then just fell off the radar for about 7 years and started doing competitions again in about 1991 and got the bug for it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, pretty much went everywhere and worked with several different people. Stephen Hill. Hilly was my partner for many years. We went all over the place, culminating me going to Calgary in 2006.
Okay.
Which was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Mind-blowing, yeah. Absolutely amazing experience.
Who would have been there around that time?
Billy, Beanie. I think Billy won it that year. Beanie was reserve. Craig Trinker. There was something like 82 entrants that year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a big year.
That's a big job for the judges.
But the guy that I went with, he'd been before. In fact, have you ever heard of a guy called Andy Brown?
Yes, I have.
Andy Brown, as in from Dorset, and he came out thinking he was going to the Stampede, and he actually turned up at the Canadian National Championships. And it was him who convinced me to go to Calgary with him. He said, oh, go on, you'll have a great time. But yeah, I mean, me and Andy were on different paths. We had different agendas. He's a lovely, lovely guy. But when we got to Calgary, his idea of being in Calgary was to enjoy the thing.
The Stampede, right.
But it was good. It was a huge learning curve, and I came back all eager that I was going to go back the next year, climb up a little bit higher and start making my mark, but that never happened.
Did you ever go back?
I had a lot of ill health in 2007.
Oh, okay.
That sort of stopped me in my tracks.
Oh, shoot. It's funny how life throws those curveballs at you.
Yeah. I carried on shoeing after that and then sort of made some moves to get back into competitions in 2008 and started. I was quite weak and frail, but yeah, I got there eventually.
Yeah.
But never went back to Calgary,
Oh,
which
okay.
is a big regret.
Yeah. When did you approach and start taking your AWCF?
2005.
Okay.
And that was really, I had a phone call from a guy who I'd never met, and he wanted to become an ACF. And at that time, the only route into becoming an ACF was to get your associate exam.
Right.
So he thought, well, I'll pop up and do my associate exam. He went to Hereford College and done an assessment. And basically, he had a lot to learn with his shoemaking. And Slim Simons said to him, where are you from? And he told him, he said, I've got a friend down there. He said, you ought to go and see him. He's trained quite a few apprentices. He'll be able to help you out. And it was a Monday evening, middle of winter. This guy rang me up and he said, can I come and have some shoemaking lessons with you? I said, yeah, fine. When do you want to come? He said, well, can I call over tonight and just sort of run you through where I'm at? I said, yeah, no problem. And then we went through the spring. I took him to a couple of competitions. And at the end of the summer, he said to me, I'm going up to Mark Caldwell for a refresher course for the AW exam. And I said, oh, right, okay. I said, really, I feel a bit of a fraud. I ought to do it with you. I said, yeah, I'll come with you. And I ended up, it was a 3-day course. And that, I'd met Stephen Bean, obviously, before that. I met him in Ireland at Clonmel horseshoeing competition a few times. And yeah, Stephen was there, John Stanley, and this lad who I'd gone up there to sort of give a bit of support to really sort of didn't make the grade. So he'd done the exam, but he didn't pass it.
Okay.
But I'd done mine with Stephen Bean, John Stanley, and a bloke called Sergio Muir, who worked for Simon Curtis at the time. Yeah, so that was great, and that was a big leg up because I felt I'd achieved something and I felt worthy of going to Calgary the following year.
Right, yeah.
So I took the exam in November of 2005. And I could have done it a lot sooner because I'd had a lot of experience working in the vet practices.
Right.
But, when you're just doing your job day to day, you don't realise quite how much you know.
Yeah.
Until you start expressing it to somebody else who also knows a lot. Well, you could do this really easy. And that was sort of what pushed me. So, yeah, I had basically 3.5 weeks to prepare. Went up and done the exam all in one hit. And, yeah.
And passed. Wow. In working with the vets, was that something that a lot of other people in your area weren't willing to do?
A lot of guys, don't like taking instruction from vets, and quite often they'd come with the horses sometimes, just to see what it was we were trying to achieve. Yeah. And we'd tell them, next time you do the horse and, if you want some support, I'm at the end of the phone. But quite often they'd say, no, you do it. When it's ready to come back to me, I'll take it back on. And so that's how it sort of grew. But that went crazy in one practice. I mean, I started off, I probably used to go in there on a Friday and do 2 or 3 every week, to the point that when I got ill in 2007, we were doing about 13 horses, 14 horses in there on a Friday.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, but we would only do what was necessary because we didn't want to take the work away from the other attending farriers. So we, I'd do a pair of front spar shoes, whatever. Yeah, done a lot of work on laminitics, a hell of a lot of work on laminitics, gluing shoes on, doing reverse wedge shoeing. Yeah, it was a learning curve.
So what was your approach when you had an acute laminitic horse come in?
So initially, we'd do an assessment between me and the vet. We'd get loads of x-rays taken. And quite often, if it was a really acute case, and you know how quickly they can change from being relatively uncomfortable to completely unable to stand. You can have them go founder in 6 hours. So it really depended on what we saw at the time. But initially, we'd try and make them comfortable. Heart bars. Done a lot with Dave Nichols from Sussex, total foot protection. He done a lot with Gene Ovnicek on 4-point trimming, and then got into the EDSS systems.
Right.
So we, for quite a long time, went down that route using EDSS systems and rails, where you jack them up and gradually bring them back down.
Mm-hmm.
Loads of impression material and stuff. I mean, we had some results. No 2 cases are the same.
No.
Never. So you could have 2 horses that present identically, but the outcome, if you treat them identically, definitely will not be the same.
Right. Could be a little frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, very.
Yeah. I've worked with some vet clinics, and I find it difficult because especially if you're going in on a Friday, you don't know how long each one is going to take.
No.
Especially if you've got a list like that staring you down. It's not like you just know, hey, I'm going to do a full set, and that usually takes me this amount of time.
The beauty was that at the time I had a team of apprentices, and I had a couple of really good qualified guys working for me.
Okay.
So the qualified guys would take one of the apprentices and go off to a big rescue centre that we used to work at, and I'd always have an apprentice with me. But if they weren't that busy at the rescue centre, they'd all descend on us so we could actually make light work of it.
Right, yeah.
It was good. Learned so much in there, which is the beauty of when you're actually doing a job. You don't realise that you're learning stuff. You're learning off of the vets just with the language that they're using,
right.
The terminology. And that's sinking in. You don't realise it because you're around it all the time.
Full immersion.
Yeah.
I imagine that helped a lot with the AWCF.
Yeah, immensely.
Because you're already thinking in that language, right?
Yeah.
Now, how did you manage? So you would have a couple qualified people working for you as well. You have a whole team of farriers you're working with. How did you manage the logistics behind that?
Very hard where we live because the client base, if you were the farrier that they were employing,
they wanted you.
They wanted you there. And they certainly didn't want a first-year apprentice nailing shoes on. So that side of it was very difficult. So I used to have a couple of really good guys work for me that sort of they eased their way into the business and they got the trust of the people.
Yeah.
And then they were happy to let the apprentices work overseen by them. I mean, I would be on the premises, but not necessarily under that horse at that time. And it worked like that for years. But ultimately, the stress and everything of it is what made me ill in 2007.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you said you were burning the candle at both ends.
Given a chance, we'd all like to turn the clock back and do things differently. I don't think, even now, after 42 years of doing the job, I don't think now that I would actually say, I would never want to shoe horses because it's been such an amazing career.
Right.
And life goes very quick when you're having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And like every day was generally quite fun. You know, if you've got a good team of lads with you, the day goes quickly.
Mm-hmm.
The weeks roll by, the months roll by. Before you know it, you're 20 years down the line and you're saying, well, where the hell did that time go? But you could have been sat behind a desk somewhere just waiting for 5 o'clock every day.
Right, yeah, watching the clock.
I've never experienced that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I've always enjoyed what I've done.
Wow. Ditto. So you're here. You're a member of the Purple Army.
Yeah.
I see the shirt.
So in 2021, when I initially stopped, I stopped completely for several months because of my back and one thing and another. I came here in 2021. I was really bad. I mean, I actually didn't stay for the whole weekend. I left mid-morning on the second day and thought, I just can't be there. I'm not enjoying it. I'm in too much pain. And I left. And it was literally 2 weeks after that, you know, the surgeon said to me, no, call it a day. I'm not going to open you up again because what happened last time with your back, if we go in there this time and we have the same complications, you know, you may not come out of it as well as you have. Be thankful for what you've got. Try and eke it out for as long as you can before you go under the knife again. He said, and I'm certain that if you give yourself a rest, your body will recover to a degree.
Right.
Which it has done. So I came back last year to focus, to help out.
Mm-hmm.
Thoroughly enjoyed the weekend. And here we are this year.
Yeah.
You know, it's gone round so quick.
Yeah, no kidding. Did you ever compete at Stoneleigh yourself?
No. So it was about the time that I got hooked up with competing with Stephen Hill that I came to the Royal Show for the very first time. I didn't compete. I came up there to see what it was all about.
Right.
But at that time, I was a little bit green and not ready for that.
That level.
Yeah, that competition ring, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think going to Calgary, it just broadens your horizons so much. I was talking to some of the guys last night, like Grant Watt and whatever, saying to him, did he find it was an amazing experience at the World Championships? And he said, yeah, he just wants to go back again and again and again. And I think that's the general consensus with people.
Yeah, well, you're surrounded by so much good work.
I watched it every day on the live streaming. And me and the wife both said, oh, wouldn't it be lovely? Because my family came with me when I went, and we went off up into the Rocky Mountains afterwards and spent a week up on the Red Deer River.
Made a trip of it.
Yeah. And we thoroughly enjoyed it. Best holiday of my life. The start of it wasn't the best because it was hard work, but learnt so much, made so many new friends there, and I'd recommend it to anyone.
Right.
Push beyond your limits.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you can come out and visit and watch the next one.
Yeah, well, this is what we've said. We'd like to come out. I think I'm a bit long in the tooth for actually doing anything, although in 2016, me and James Todd came to the AFA convention in Mobile, Alabama.
Yep.
And we watched the seniors class. And I said to Jim then, I said, you know, I'd like to come back and do that when I'm an old chap. There may be a glimmer of hope that I may finally reach that goal.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll see you there too. This is the Stratum Tectorium. Short answer questions brought to you by Out West Design and Fabrication. Your choice for farrier rigs. Do you have a favorite book?
If you're referring to farriery, the book that I probably referred to most, especially when I was doing my associate, would have been Principles of Horseshoeing, Doug Butler.
Okay. Do you have a non-farrier book?
Fiction. Any sort of fiction. Murder, mystery, action, that sort of thing.
Okay. Favorite brand of nails?
Mustad.
What shoe sizes do you generally stock the most of?
5 1/4 up to about 6 1/2. It would have been. I mean, it's nothing like that now.
Right, yeah.
But all the bigger shoes we always made.
Okay, so what type of horses did you typically work on?
Show jumpers, hell of a lot of show jumpers, and a few hunt yards. One of them probably done for nearly 30 years, and they were all monster horses in there, you know. Inch
draft crosses and
yeah,
stuff.
inch by half concave, handmade, hunter heels, all that sort of stuff. But thoroughly enjoyed doing them.
Yeah.
Until my back got too bad, and then
they're not so fun.
Yeah.
Favorite make of rasp?
My favourite rasp would be a third
Yeah.
hoof plane.
Yep. That's mine too.
I used them constantly from the time they came out until I stopped. And at the moment, in our local farrier store, we can't get them. I'm back on Hella Green Tang.
Right.
Yeah. And they just clog up terribly.
I've been hearing that quite a bit just in the last day. Favorite rounding hammer?
I've got to say, the best rounding hammer I've ever had, Flatland Forge, 2¼ pound. I have currently used a Viking I think that might even be a 2½ pound, but I've always got a Flatland Forge in my truck.
Okay. Yeah, the Jim Poor.
That's my go-to day-to-day hammer.
Okay. Favorite type of bar stock to work with?
When I first started out, I'd done a lot of harness horses. Believe it or not a massive sport in England, but somehow I made a niche and I'd done a hell of a lot of harness horses. So I used to make crossfiring hind shoes out of 5/8, 5/16 concave.
Oh, yeah.
Which was quite tricky. And I got it down to quite a fine art. They were fiddly, bendy and all of that.
Yeah.
So I guess realistically, you can't beat knocking around a bit of inch by 3/8 fuller in it.
Yeah. Make it into any section you need. Next thing on your bucket list?
I've got quite a lot of things to do on my bucket list, but I think realistically, I would love to come back to the convention. I would like to have a go at doing the seniors competition out there. But we had such a fantastic week while we were out there. We were made welcome. Like, hospitality was second to none.
Right.
It was great.
Yeah. Favorite pastime after work?
That's where I'm a bit sad, because I've worked far too many hours to have a pastime after work.
Right.
I've done the Tour de Farrier in
Did you? Yeah.
2016, which isn't that strange because I was a cyclist before I came into farriery.
Oh, okay.
I used to compete.
Like road cycling?
Road cycling and time trialling. I rode for a club for many years. And as I got more and more into farriery, I got less and less time to do that. And then somebody said to me, why don't you do the Tour de Farrier? It was Jimmy Cooper.
Okay.
Whatever he does, he's amazing at. He was one of Andrew Casseley's apprentices.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Done that in 2016. Absolutely loved that. And if I could ride a bike still, I probably would, because when I was doing that, I found it really helpful. So in the morning, you get up and you go out shoeing, you're stiff, your body takes a few hours to get going as you get older,
Yep.
Your body has to warm up. So when I was riding the bike, because I was trying to get the miles in, I was going out for an hour before work in the morning. I was going out at 6 o'clock in the morning, riding, coming back, showering, getting in the van and going off to work. I felt amazing.
You were warmed up.
Yeah. Yeah, it really, really did help. The back put pay to that.
Right. I just took up biking this year, and I found it made a huge difference for me, too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I tried. I on the advice of the surgeon and everybody, I tried yoga, Pilates. I do believe that maintaining your body and not ignoring it is the key to a long shoeing career. And whilst I may have abused my body rather more than a lot of other fellas, I have always had either physio, chiropractors or massage. And I think massage is the key, because when your body starts to go into spasm, if you can release it, you just nip it in the bud.
Right. Before everything gets pulled out of whack. And then you need to see the chiropractor. Yeah, I do the same thing every other week.
And I think the important thing for me is that, if you can get a message across to people, work hard, make the most of it while you're in your prime. But don't forget that as you get older, you get slower, your earning potential decreases. So you need to be putting something aside for those later days, because it comes to us all.
Right. Yeah. No matter who you are. Yeah. Easy thing to neglect when you're young, though.
Yeah.
Ideal number of horses to shoe all around in one day, if you were on your own.
You're talking to the wrong person, because
it was as many as you could.
Well, I was always in a situation where I was in big yards, and they took advantage of the fact that you didn't like to be under pressure and that you would keep them satisfied by just doing the horses. And that was the rod that I made for my back very early on. Now I know that ideally, if after I'd had my surgery in 2018, I'd have come back and said, right, I'm going to do 4, 5 tops a day, that would have been the ideal number.
Right.
But unfortunately in Britain, it is a bit of a numbers game because the pricing is...
Yeah, to make the living.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, you can't have it always.
Yeah, kind of a loaded question then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Favorite brand of machine-made shoe?
I've got to be honest, I used to love handmade shoes, concaves.
Yeah. That's not an uncommon answer.
When they first came out, they were absolutely amazing. And before that, I used Brooks Lane Smithy shoes, which were obviously designed by Alan Calvert and Mark. They didn't stay around for too long. They were very similar to what Billy managed to produce. Okay. But Billy's shoes, they were the only shoe at the time when they came out that you knew you could take them out of the box, shape them up, and you'd get your nails where you wanted them.
Right.
Whereas those shoes aren't readily available anymore. So Billy's changed the, drop forged shoes and whatever. And there's nothing I hate more than fitting a shoe up and knowing that you're not going to be able to get your toenails or your second nails in. I mean, I even went to the point where I bought a load of shoes off of Stromholm, Kirkhart's, unpunched.
Really?
Yeah, I bought boxes and boxes and boxes of them because I knew it would be quicker for me to put the nail holes in and clip them than it would be trying to rectify something that's never going to nail on.
Right.
Without putting more nail holes in it.
Right.
So I did it from probably about 2011. They had a load that they'd bought in and they couldn't sell. And they had them at the Great Yorkshire Showground at the Yorkshire Farrier Championships, bar shoemaking championships, and I bought shed loads of them.
Okay.
And I loved them. They were good for the apprentices because you could actually mark them out and show them where the nail holes went.
Yep.
And it sort of got their productivity up a little bit. And that was the general idea behind them. They were there to get apprentices putting nail holes in shoes.
Right.
Quickly. But they were good because you could put your nails where you needed them and up the pitch you needed them.
Right. Okay.
And that would be my biggest bugbear with where everything's gone now. People make these products, but they actually don't think about the end user who's got to apply them.
Yeah.
And so, how much of poor shoeing is down to the products that people choose to use because of pricing and because of the quality control at the
manufacturer.
The origin point. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very good point. And sometimes, like in North America, I think you're dealing with that deficiency, but then the people themselves aren't aware of it either. Like I was in that camp for sure. And my nails were going every which way.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was wrong.
Yeah, but you have to be self-educated.
Exactly.
Going down the competition route is the best playground because you're seeing the absolute cream of the cream that know how to do the job. You may not have had that opportunity when you were training, but once you get out and you put yourself out there and you think, well, my job doesn't look like that. What have I done wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Tap the guy on the shoulder and he says, how did you get your nails up there? He says, well, it's what to do with the pitch. And then you start the penny drops, doesn't it? It's a blinding moment when the penny drops and you think, well, actually, that's not that hard to do. But it's harder to do that on a machine-made shoe. Mm-hmm. When you've got to start back punching the hole or punching down into it and then, not a bit of me, I'm afraid. So done a lot of make and fit along the way. Hell of a lot of make and fit.
Right. What's your favorite anvil?
At the moment, I've got an American anvil, JHM competitor in the shop, and I've got a diamond wide face in the truck.
Okay. That wouldn't be a young anvil, would it? I don't know if I've heard of that. Are they still making anvils?
Diamond, I don't know whether they're manufactured by them. It's an American pattern, but it's got like a 5.5 inch wide face on it. So if you imagine it's like a Scott in width, not quite as heavy as a Scott, probably about 10 pounds lighter.
Okay.
Yeah, and they do a half and half. So they do like a future anvil. They do a half alley, half.
Oh, right. Okay.
I tried the half and half out, and I thought I am going to wreck that in no time at all. But yeah, I bought that in about 2016.
Oh, okay. So recent. Okay. Favorite inspirational quote?
This hasn't come from anybody who ever shod horses, but a client of mine who said to me one day, you need to be careful because you're heading down a route to success, and everybody looking at you will tell you how lucky you are. And your response to that should always be, you know, the funny thing is, the harder I work, the luckier I get. Yeah. And that's always stuck with me. Great friend of mine. Yeah, very successful guy.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Did you take a dog with you when you shod?
When I was young, yeah, I had a Doberman that used to travel shotgun.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went everywhere with me for about 4 years. And then we got involved in a road traffic accident involving a police car. Not our fault. The police car slid in the ice and caused an accident. And yeah, the dog nearly got injured. And I thought, I can't take him in the truck no more. So I used to have a pickup truck with opening flaps on the back, you know, way before its time over here.
Oh, okay.
Back in 1993, 94.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then I guess that sort of brings on all the comical things that have happened that when you look back weren't so comical. I had a guy working for me in 1989, and he went over to the States in the summer. But I knew I had him up until he went, and he trained with Spud Allison's father.
Oh, okay.
But he was from my area, so when he came back, he's like, you know, have you got any work? And he used to work with me and done 3 days a week with me and 2 days a week with Gary Martin. Do you know Gary? He's out in Australia now.
I've heard of him, yeah.
He used to be on the England team years ago. We were going out to work one Monday morning and we had a little cob to do. We went and shod the cob. We then had about a 10-mile drive to the next job, and we're driving down this country lane, beautiful summer's morning. And he said to me, can you hear that? And I said, hear what? He said, can I hear a hissing noise? And at the time, I had a truck with a custom-built trailer on the back, but it was a walk-in. And I used to carry a big 110-pound gas bottle, which was ratchet-strapped and chained in the corner. I said, yeah, do you think we got a bad puncture? We'd gone down this country lane a little bit further. I thought, no, that's a gas bottle leaking.
Oh.
We could hear it. By the time we pulled up, where the fire was warm, the propane's heavier than there, so it fills up from the bottom. It ignited the surface and it melted all the paint off of the alley shell of the trailer. And I said to this Gavin Adams, I said, unhitch the truck and drive it up the road. No, don't be silly, run. I went, just drive the truck up the road. So we unhitched it. And then an old boy came past on an old bicycle. And I went, stop. Anyway, as he went past, he must have got about 50 foot past us and the bloody trailer blew up. It took the roof 150 foot off into an orchard. A plant lorry driver had pulled his lorry, could see the trailer was going to blow. He'd stopped any traffic coming down the lane. We'd pulled our truck the other end. Yeah, and the next thing, the police, the fire brigade and an army bomb disposal unit turned up because 2 miles down the road, which was right on the banks of the River Thames, they'd found an unexploded bomb that morning and they thought somebody had hit one.
Oh, my God.
All our stuff was debris. I had a brand new anvil, fire and everything in this trailer completely ruined. Because we detached it from the truck, it wasn't covered by the insurance. Total loss.
You're kidding.
First thing on a Monday morning, yeah. That was the first incident of the week. So we came back home, regrouped, had a spare anvil and fire, chucked it in, went to a yard in the afternoon. Thoroughbred went absolutely crazy on me, trampled all over me. Black and blue. I thought, oh, good God.
Should have stayed home.
On the Thursday, Gavin was actually flying out to the States that day, and I had a busy day, and last horse of the day, I had a really nice day. I had a young lad on work experience. Bloody horse reared up, dumped me on my head, and dislocated my left knee and fractured my skull.
Oh, my gosh.
That was a week I will never forget.
No kidding.
Yeah.
One for the history books.
People say it could only happen to me. So.
Wild. And nobody got hurt when that trailer exploded?
No, we got commended for bravery for blocking the road.
Yeah.
Got investigated.
Yeah.
Obviously, the fire brigade had to do their job because they thought the gas bottle had been left switched on, but it wasn't. They found the valve, it was all off. What happened, the chain had broken inside the trailer and the ratchet strap gave way. Once the bottle was over like that and it ignited the gas off the heat of the fire, it burnt through the ratchet strap. As it went over, the explosion occurred when the bottle hit the back of the steel stand that the fire was on, ripped the top of the bottle right off, the valve.
Oh, right.
And it just blew. Went through the floor and then back up. Took the whole roof off the trailer.
Wild.
Yeah.
Well, you're lucky. I mean, probably didn't seem that way at the time, but if you were stumped on a case or needed backup, who would you call?
So probably in my 30s, I'd have probably rang Jim Todd.
Okay.
Because, he's been a good friend. In latter years, I would have discussed anything like that with Stephen Hill.
Okay.
Two heads are always better than one.
Yeah, right. Did you have a favorite shoe or package for a mystery lameness when a horse was footy?
I never had a favourite. I was always open to trying many different things. I'm quite a lateral thinker. But in the latter years, I really did quite enjoy putting on the 3D pads and seeing the improvement that I got from using them. Tried lots of things out over the years, got into 4-pointing, natural balance. You go down them routes and you discover its pitfalls. And if you don't, then you carry on making the same mistakes. But if you see a foot generally going the wrong way, that what you're doing to it isn't right, quite quick to jump on things like that.
Right.
And stop it, nip it in the bud, try something else.
Right. That's how you learn, but also, there's a bit of experimentation involved too. What did you use as your planner or diary?
I'm old school, just a normal diary. Book it in, week to view, see where you're going that week.
And away you go. Favorite method of soothing aches and pains?
Hot tub.
Yeah.
Calgary, 2006. We stayed in this log cabin after we went off up into the Rockies, and we had a hot tub right outside the cabin. Yeah, I came back and bought one instantly.
Yeah, they are
Before
amazing.
work in the morning even, if you got out, great.
Yeah, it's like the bike ride. It warms you up, right?
Yeah.
Favorite drink?
At the moment, I'd have to say cider.
Yeah.
I like to try a few different ciders.
Okay.
I'm not a great drinker. I'm a lightweight, as anyone that knows me will tell you.
Okay. Do you have a favorite song?
Electric Light Orchestra, Out of the Blue.
Okay. That's a good one. What did you use as your knives? Or what do you use as your knives?
Back in the 90s, I used to use Paterkas.
I don't know those.
I'm sure he was Canadian.
Oh, is this the guy that
lived up in the mountains?
Yeah, and he would just make enough?
Knives. Yeah, he used to make enough to fund his lifestyle.
Yeah.
They stopped becoming available over it, but they used to last really well, and they were really easy to sharpen.
Okay.
And they kept an edge.
Right.
After that, we went on to Australian company, Dusty Forge or something.
Oh, okay.
Which was a very similar looking knife. And then from there, I went to Ringles.
Okay.
Yeah, love a Ringle.
And would you have a left and a right, or?
No, right-handed and a loop knife. Broad blade loop knife.
Okay.
Yeah. And a searcher.
Yeah, right. I guess this kind of was answered with your biking. Did you work out?
Yeah, that would have been in the latter years. In the younger years, when I first started, obviously I was still bike riding. I used to go to the gym 4 nights a week.
Oh, really?
I used to ride the bike after work. I used to ride the bike to the forge during my apprenticeship, ride home after a full day's work, and then ride to the gym, and then ride home. But, yeah, you can't sustain that when you're shoeing horses.
No.
That's crazy. Yeah.
What would you have been if not a farrier?
Agricultural engineer.
Hmm.
Always. Probably I did learn to weld before I ever got involved with shoeing horses. Not because anybody around me was into that, but I was just fascinated by it, building stuff.
Right. And then the last question, the COVID question, who would you want to be stuck in a shop with for a month?
I'm going to say my last apprentice.
Yeah?
Yeah. We had so much fun. Great friend. Go and see him 4 or 5 times a year. Stay at his place. Absolutely love him to death. Like an extended member of my family.
Right.
Yeah.
And who's that?
A guy called Daniel Garner.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to do this.
Well, thanks for doing it. Cheers.
Cheers.